Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for tuning in and for being in the audience tonight for the January 9th School Committee meeting. I would like to welcome you to this meeting. It's being broadcast live on cable, and it's also being recorded by Foxboro Cable Access. And a happy new year to everyone as we turn the clocks over to a new year. I hope you ended your 2023 well with family and health. And we turn the clocks over, I guess. Not clocks over, we turn the dates over, and we're now on 24. And, you know, we have a new year to look forward to. So, welcome, everyone. I didn't see anyone on open public comments signed up. I see no one nodding at me. I see no one on the list, so thank you. That's no public comments tonight. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes. And I think we have two of them, right?
Yeah, we have two.
November 14th and December 9th.
Correct. So you want to start with November 14th? Anyone or everyone?
Sure.
Move to accept
Yeah,
November?
I motion to accept the minutes from the November 14th, 2023 regular meeting of the school committee.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Second by Michelle. We'll grab Michelle. Voices came out at the same time, so moved by Rob, second by Michelle. Any further discussion? All in favor of the November 14th minutes? 4-0. Mr. Rutter is just arriving now, but we'll catch him on the next vote, maybe. Next, the next minutes up are the December 12th minutes.
I just wanted to, regarding the December 12th minutes, I just wanted to amend that Nathan Ehrman did attend as the student representative on the December 12th. So we need to amend that.
Great. So Jamie will make that amendment. Thank you.
Thank you.
The minutes have been offered to amend that Nathan was in attendance. Anything else for the December 12th minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from our regular meeting on December 12th, 2023.
Second.
I'm sorry.
We'll go with the second, and we can still discuss before.
Yeah,
All right, so
no,
we'll take
there's-
the second from Brent. So motion by Sarah, second by Brent.
And
Further discussion.
I just caught this. There's just on the, I wasn't at the meeting, but on the bullet under superintendent's update, can we just correct the spelling of kindergarten? Or it's right under, it's the fifth bullet down, I think, or sixth bullet down. It says Kindgarten.
Yes.
You mind?
Yes, the fifth bullet on the second page to correct the spelling to kindergarten.
It's also kind, though, right?
It is, yes.
I'd say this kind,
Yeah.
yes. Okay, so we have two amendments to these minutes already proposed. Any further amendments or discussion?
Nice catch, by the way.
Thank you. Hearing none and seeing none, all in favor of the December 12th minutes
With amendments?
with amendments?
Thank you.
That's 4, opposed, abstaining, 1. So it's a 4-0-1 vote for the December 12th minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And as we finish the minutes, we were talking about some edits to the minutes, and I just want to thank Jamie Quattrini for being here. It's our new assistant to the superintendent is attending her first meeting tonight.
And the school committee.
And the school committee as well. Thank you.
Yes.
Well said. Yes,
Yes.
both of us.
Yes.
And thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for being aboard, and welcome to Foxborough.
Thank you. Before you go forward,
Yes.
would you mind just explaining or just making a note that Dr. Burdos is participating?
Yes, I would. Yeah, good. I'll do it now.
Thank
so,
you.
in attendance here, just for those people that are watching, Dr. Burdos is not here right now. We have Dr. Burrows on my over here on the right, and Mr. Yukna is here as well. Dr. Burdos is attending via Zoom as she is recovering from surgery. So, welcome, Dr. Burdos. We see you there. Thank you for jumping on board. Thank you, Rob. Teaching and learning highlights, 6:40. He or she just shook. Duke just shook, so he must have known he was up. So come on forward, Cammie. We have a teaching and learning highlights, and we have bringing forward Duke, our therapy dog.
We're going to let Duke take a break.
Oh, okay. Duke's not coming because Duke was shaking.
He was here at the beginning to say hi to everybody.
Well, thanks so much for coming and spending some time with us and
Thank you.
speaking a little bit about what's going on.
Sure. So this is Duke, who is here, but this is his picture up here. And Duke is a certified therapy dog, and he started in the school district last May. And we introduced him back in May, starting at the Foxborough High School and the Ahern Middle School, where he did visits about once a week for about an hour. And he was visible in the hallways. We did some classroom visits. Here, got my little slide here. All right. So therapy dogs really are meant to bring comfort and joy to everybody, unlike a service dog, which is targeted for an individual with a disability. I get that question actually a lot from our students. When I see them in the school, they ask, what's Duke's job and what does a therapy dog mean? And therapy dogs are really just meant to interact with people, make you smile, help elevate the mood. They can help comfort people who might be in distress or not feeling great on a certain day. And he's also a boxer, and boxers love people. They are more of a higher energy dog than you might typically see a lab or a golden retriever, but he's still very fit for the job. So we're in, this is actually one of Duke's visits to our bridge program at the high school. And we're in all 5 schools now, and we visit about 1 to 2 times per month. And our visits look like visiting full class sizes, and sometimes often we've done some targeted visits as well. So we've actually done some side-by-side visits with our EL teachers and some of our newcomer students, and we've been able to practice some English together, and it's also been really good for those students to see how to interact with a dog. We also have an upcoming I've collaborated with our district's OT, and we actually are going to send out Duke trading cards. We're actually part of like a mailing list of trading cards across the country, and we're going to work on stuffing envelopes and addressing them and labeling them and putting stamps on them, and so working with the OT to provide some services alongside Duke. And then, of course, the faculty and staff love seeing Duke. We have in every building, we kind of have some rounds that we absolutely have to make. And it just brightens the day of the people who he visits. And just here's some pictures of Duke. A couple of quotes from folks after we've done some visits. Duke was a huge hit in our rooms. The overall vibe and energy went up from tired to vibrant, energetic, and happy. I'll say that was a high school math classroom, first thing in the morning. So the vibe in the room really elevated. The teacher was really excited about that. Just a few more quotes. I love the last one. We did a visit for a wellness classroom, and they had just finished a unit and talking about mental health. And she talked about how dogs and being around animals, and this is just another great way for you to address your mental health. And, pets can really be great for us. We've also we usually try to make visits to the media center, and I know we met Nate last week, his group of friends. So, all right. Here is a little video of a day in the life of Duke.
Hi everyone, it's Duke. Come with me on my last day of school. Here's mom getting coffee and the nice lady giving me a treat. And then here we are, riding car on the way to school. And then that's me just waiting, all my friends. I got to see everyone today, and I hope they know they'll miss them over the summer, and I hope they great summer.
Can you start again with the, or?
Taking a little break, and then I went to see my friends and guidance gave me treats. I wish I had a happy retirement. And lastly, let's go on nice today.
We have the cute pictures.
We'll sum it up. It was the last day of school. We were in the hallways. We visited some friends in guidance. That was our social worker at the middle school who was retiring that last day, and she loved Duke, so we had to make sure we visited her. And that's him actually with a tennis ball that a boy had saved in his desk for the next time that we were visiting. And he pulls it out, and he's like, I've been saving this to give it to Duke because I know he loves tennis balls. So it was just really sweet.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Looks like he's grown a little bit since then.
He has.
Yeah.
He was little at that point in time. So we have some Duke swag, and I actually have some here for you.
Oh.
So we have trading cards, and I mentioned before, I've really just been diving into this therapy dog world a little bit more, and I can give you guys some too, but apparently having trading cards is a thing, so I obviously had to make them for Duke. And but I've been getting mail at the middle school, and yeah, so we get mail. We get all these trading cards in, and I didn't bring them with me, but I probably have about 30 trading cards from across the United States of various therapy dogs, and that are in schools, that are in police departments, that are in libraries, that are in hospitals.
Yeah.
So that's what that's what the trading cards look like. But I will get those up to you. We have stickers. Everybody loves stickers.
That's crazy.
And I love seeing them on the kids' water bottles, laptops, whatnot.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
that's right. Yay.
And there we are. And Duke does have social media, and I just use it really just to post videos, and the kid, all the kids are on it, and they just love, watching him do whatever it is he does on a daily basis. And
But you limit his hours on social media.
we do
obviously.
limit his hours because we know
Screen
that we
time.
need
That's
to
just responsible, Cammie.
Yep, we have to eat a
Really.
healthy diet and get exercise and sleep and rest and all those things. So,
That's awesome.
yeah, any questions?
Yeah, any questions?
Oh, I do.
Sure.
And this is more searching back into the memory banks, but like, we started this discussion about therapy dogs at Foxborough, right? Before the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is something that was a plan, I guess, laid as early as what, 2018, 2019, I want to say?
I
I
wasn't
don't-
involved in that, but I
Yeah.
don't know if Dr. Burdos wants to speak to that. or-
Okay, yeah, it was, right? And it's nice to see it be able to come to fruition, and thank you for stepping up to do that.
Yeah.
So it's a big responsibility, but the benefits are well documented. So.
What is the training that you and Duke had to go through? What was that like?
So we are certified through a larger organization called the Alliance of Therapy Dogs, and they have thousands of therapy dogs certified across the country. And they have a criteria. And so basically, we had to go through 4 tests. The first test was a handler and dog test, where they had to make sure that Duke and I had a positive relationship, that he could walk nicely on a leash. We could sort of make different direction turns. We could run together. Someone could run by us. Someone who was unstable could be around us. So essentially making sure that Duke was okay and not negatively reactive to any of those scenarios. And then the next one we actually stood was a public test where we stood outside of a Home Depot. And we had carts going by and all kinds of different people, and the tester stood next to us and was like, "Hey, do you want to pet a dog?" And we just had to see how Duke would interact with all kinds of people and carts and whatnot. And then the next 2 tests, the third one was actually at Foxborough High School, where we walked around after school and we went to a basketball game and we went through the music department, obviously. And we walked up and down the hallways, we walked through the media center, we walked by the custodians, just to, again, make sure that Duke was comfortable, that he had showed promise to be comfortable, but there was no adverse reactions. And just seeing that the dog was happy in the space, that I could handle the dog, that I could correct the dog if needed. And then the last one was in a memory care facility, where we went and visited folks in their little apartments. So the hospital piece was a required part of the test. And then the training I did mostly on my own. Actually, I had a therapy dog before. This is my second one. And the first one that I had was prior to therapy dogs becoming pretty regular in schools. I lost him just about when that hit. But he and I had done a lot of volunteering in memory care facilities, and we had also done some volunteering for students living in shelters in Boston. So that's where my background is from.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And does Duke have fun? It
He loved-
looks like he has
Duke
fun.
loves,
right?
I don't know if you saw him in here, but his till Dr. Donovan walked in. He was like, Dr. Donovan, right to him. So, and he knows Bill, he knows Stephanie. He just knows, he loves it. Duke loves coming to school. He loves it when I put the collar on him, and he's like, I'm ready to go. So.
And we're going today. I'm sorry, I'll just dominate all the questions.
Go ahead.
Do the kids know when he's coming, or are they surprise visits?
No, I don't. I don't tell them because oftentimes I don't really even know.
Right.
It's kind of just week to week, and if the weather is right, and
Right.
if nothing kind of pops up in my schedule, and I'm able to kind of have that little chunk of time where I can
It's a
do
pop in
this.
everybody's day. to have
Yeah.
that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So.
Thank you. It's really we're so fortunate. So thank you.
Yeah, you're
Thank you for bringing
welcome.
him
It's
here.
my pleasure.
Tour of the schools.
The dog stays with the handler all the time? You stay together all the time, right?
Oh yeah.
It's part of the whole
Yep,
thing.
it's part of the vacation. He has to be with me at all times.
Yeah, that's great.
On a 4-foot lead.
Oh, wow.
No one can hold the lead. That's all part of the insurance policy and whatnot. So.
Great.
I have a question, and I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer. I think Duke's super adorable, but I have crippling dog allergies. How do you mitigate allergies in the school and classroom setting?
So we've done a pretty thorough process in terms of asking all of our nurses at the beginning of the year. They go through and they can run extensive reports on allergies, and any identified allergies, the nurses and the principals have reached out. And we've also just done it in a way where we've done an opt-out, where we've just simply just said, if you do not want your child to interact with Duke, just let us know. No questions asked. And then a lot of students also advocate for themselves. Most allergies are either airborne or contact. And most of the students most of them are contact, and they'll just say, I don't really want to touch the dog, and we don't go near them, or I've had some that are like, I'm allergic, and they're right. I'm like,
Yeah.
wash your hands. Like, come on.
That's my biggest problem with my animal allergies.
Yep.
They're so cute, and I want to be around them.
Yeah.
And then I'll be wheezing. So
And actually, in fact, we've had, I can think of a case where we had a family reach out just saying that their child was a little nervous around dogs, so it was great for us to know that ahead of time, so we were able to do a pre-visit before we went into their classrooms, and it really helped just the child have that one-on-one, you just watch him and kind of check out what he's doing, and it made the experience for the visit in his classroom to be just a little bit better. So it was nice. Yeah, it's nice when we can do that. It's nice when we know ahead of time.
yeah.
So, yeah.
And two, I've had the opportunity to visit classrooms with Duke and with Cammie, and because Cammie knows the district so well, and she knows our staff so well and our kids so well, she is very calm when she's bringing Duke around to classrooms. So if there's ever a student that's saying, I really don't want Duke around me, she just navigates the other way and is very supportive of that. And it works out really well. It doesn't take away from the other kids. Other kids get to interact. And, after a while, when they become comfortable, they might come over and want to pet Duke and change their mind. So it's been really wonderful. It's great to have an educator as Duke's handler, because she really knows how to navigate the classroom in a way that makes all kids feel like they can safely interact at a level that they would like.
Nice.
Great. Thank you for making the time.
welcome.
You have a busy schedule as it is anyways, and your teaching schedule with everything and trying to fit the time with the dog for everyone else. So thank you for making the extra time.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And I'm going to leave these with you all.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Hot items.
Tell Duke we said thank you as
We
well.
will.
Put them in baggies and save those.
I'm not allergic to the stickers.
No. There we go.
If you need more, let me know. I'll send them up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
That was great. Yeah, Brent, good memory too, because we started that a while ago.
We did.
And then we did the policy, then we had to kind of work on the policy to get the policy up to speed,
Yep.
for the right dynamics for our school. So it's great to have it come around.
It is.
Next on the agenda, we have our superintendent's update, and I wasn't sure, is it you, Dr. Burrows, or both, or?
I'm going to take it on for
Thank you.
tonight.
Thank you.
With Dr. Burdos can jump in if anything comes up. I have just a couple of things that I wanted to share. Kindergarten registration is open. As a reminder to families, the earlier you register your child and let us know that they'll be coming to us, the better. There will be a parent orientation for rising kindergartners. It's currently tentatively scheduled for March 21st. We have a kindergarten orientation and information page on the district website that I would encourage families to check out as they're registering their student to find out more information about who our kindergarten teachers are and some additional information that they might want to keep in mind as they're preparing for their little one to come to school. The National Junior Honor Society applications were due last week. Beginning next week, we'll have a faculty council at the Ahern taking a look at those applications. Those are our 7th grade and 8th grade students, and making decisions about those applications. There will be an induction ceremony planned for later this spring that will be shared with families through the Ahern newsletter. The Ahern is having a Mark bullying and cyberbullying presentation to all students at each grade level on January 16th and 17th. What's nice about that, and Ms. Frazier will be sharing this in a parent newsletter, what's nice about that is in addition to the information being shared with families, we're also sharing a talking points for how to talk to your student at home about bullying. So we'll be sharing talking points with families so that they can pick that conversation up at home. Band, chorus, and orchestra concerts for 8th grade are this Thursday, January 11th, and next Thursday for 7th grade, January 18th. And coming up on February 6th, there's going to be a parent academy from 6:30 to 8 p.m. It's a virtual workshop presented by Dr. Elizabeth Englander, who we've worked with before from the Mark Center. This is available to all families. It'll be shared with families through the principal's newsletters, and it's going to be a virtual meeting, and the focus will be on digital wellness. So we encourage all families to attend that. And the only other thing that I have, unless Nate is going to mention it, is mid-year exams are fast approaching. They're January 23rd through the 26th, and those are half days for our high school students. And there is a Cocoa and Cram night scheduled on January 17th from 6 to 8 p.m. Our Link crew puts that on for our 9th graders. That's a 9th grade event only. And that is all I have. Were you going to say that, Nate? You can say it again.
Thank you.
Any questions or anything else? Thank you very much.
Query. The Virtual Parent Academy Virtual Parent Academy on digital wellness, is that a pre-registration thing, open link, or what's the preferred method?
There's been a flyer that's been shared in the principal newsletters this week. I believe they're going to be repeating that so that it's on families' radars and they can access the link on the day of the event.
Great, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Next is our student representative report, Nathan.
So back on the mid-years, a little different this year. They're going to start at 7:45, so don't show up at 8:30 expecting your exam to start then.
Oh, ouch.
The DECA competition was held this past week. 16 students qualified for the state conference in March. And then there's 3 days until our next day off, which is on Monday for Martin Luther King.
Why is the, do you remember, what was the reason for the shift in time for the midterms?
Just Dr. Donovan can probably talk, but it was
Yeah.
it was in his newsletter this week where he just said back to pre-COVID
Oh,
schedules.
that's right.
Great. Thank you, Nathan.
You did the homework.
Thanks for the updates. Next, Dr. Donovan, I think you're up with student travel requests.
Yep. I never miss.
I know you don't.
Good evening, everyone. Happy New
Hello.
Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you as well.
I'm just here to ask your support for the field trip for our DECA program. There's 2 field trips. One is to the state conference, overnight field trips in March, and then hopefully to the national conference in April in California.
Wow.
We had 15 students qualify last week at the regional event in Mansfield. For states and up, there is potentially 4 more students who will be able to participate in states as well. So we'll have almost 20 students potentially participating. And then last year, I believe we had 2 students who qualified for nationals. So we're asking for your support again for these 2 trips and this program.
That's great. We do need action here, and I think you can motion both DECA trips
Yeah.
at one time.
Kim, but
think we can do that once.
I have a quick question.
please,
Your
go ahead.
your first competition, I noticed that was local at the state, so is that just like a bus?
Yeah,
Bus trip?
it was in Mansfield.
No. The next one coming up in March, isn't it locally here in
It
Massachusetts?
is yes, it's in Boston at the convention center, but the kids are required to stay at the
overnight.
Copley Marriott.
Okay, so there is overnight stay.
Yes.
So, okay, that's all I was wondering.
Great question, though. That's,
The
yeah,
events
I was thinking the
go
same thing because
quite
it's
late.
in-state, but I was assuming it was overnight, but yeah, great
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
They make
All
a
right.
full
Oh, good.
event of it. It's a really nice
As
event.
they should. I mean, they should,
Like the event,
absolutely.
some of the competitions go quite late, and I've
Yeah.
chaperoned it before. It's a really nice event.
Awesome. I think it's great.
I motion that we approve the proposals for overnight travel for the 2 DECA competitions. And the state competition in March and potentially the international conference at the end of April into May.
Thank you, Rob. Second?
I'll second.
Second by Sarah. Motion by Rob, second by Sarah. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for bringing them
Thank
forward,
you.
too, because we've all seen DECA grow over the past, probably only 6 or 7 years. I think I was on the committee when we first started, I think, does that make sense? 6 or 7 years ago was one of the first big trips.
Oh, Joe.
And I remember them talking about it and Mr. McCabe talking about growing it for many years. So, yes, Joe, did you want to add?
I wanted to add a thought. DECA started when I was at the high school in 2015.
Yeah.
The spring 2015, and then it fully became a club the 2015-2016 year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's
They've done-
correct.
Like they've really grown and done great things in that time. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it was just maybe like 38 or 39 students that competed last week. So it's really awesome.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, please tell Mr. McCabe we thank him for
Mr.
his
McCabe does
efforts
does a
in
wonderful job.
leading the students, so appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank
Have a
you.
wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Next on the agenda is our community report. Dr. Burrows, I think you have done some work on this and put it in the packet.
Yes, so you have the draft community report in front of you, just as a reminder to the community. This is an annual report that we send out at the end of January, beginning of February. It's mailed out to all Foxborough residents, not just families of students enrolled in Foxborough Public Schools. The report's intended to share with the greater Foxborough community the types of programs that we're offering and what the student experience looks like. Last year, you had mentioned that you had wanted some of those tables and some of that data back. So we've added that back in this year to take that feedback. And then we introduced QR codes last year for preschool registration and kindergarten registration. And there's another one to our high school guidance department that reviews the different courses and electives that they're able to offer up at the high school. So we kept those in. And then the other big change that you might see this year, we highlighted our unified sports program, which has been growing over the course of last school year and this current school year. We were able to have that big unified sports celebration event, and there's some photos in the report from there. And we really wanted to share that with the community. So this is just an opportunity to gain your feedback before we put a final draft to the printing press.
Looks great. Thanks for all the hard work. Love the QR codes. I think that's great.
I think it's great.
I think it's good timing to come out this time of year, as you guys know, and I hope people in the community take the time to look at it, because it really does do a great job of summarizing where our schools are and the who we serve and how we serve them. So thank you for putting it together.
I really enjoy putting it together. It's a lot of fun.
Well, and I mean, this was your second round through?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
your thoughtfulness shows through, so, and the fact that you really solicit input from all around, it's a really nice imagining and reimagining of what we put out, and it makes me proud to read it, frankly. So, thank you for the work and
Well,
your team.
I think it's really important that I take into account your feedback as well, because you're a big part of what makes Foxborough schools great. So I want to make sure that we're featuring the pieces in the community report that you think the public will value. So I rewatched last year's school committee and paid attention to what you offered for feedback to make sure that it was included.
That was very diplomatic, because I think, at least I remember one of us, me being a little cranky about the whole thing. So that was very diplomatic of you.
You
So,
weren't cranky, that's just your affect.
Well, and I think it takes great work to squeeze all the thoughts that we may have into 3 pages, right?
Right.
Because that's the truth of it. So I really appreciate the look with unified sports and things like that. And I appreciate you going back because, in a continuum of 3 or 4 years, it would be good to see 3 or 4 different things, right? In that community report. So we have to take some things out, put other things in, but I think keeping that perspective is really important.
Right.
Great. And I don't think we need to act, there's no decision from us on this, so this is just her showing us and us offering feedback. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And then I guess you're next with the tiered focus monitoring review.
Yes, I am. I'm talking all night. What you have in front of you is a memo of the press release that was provided to us from the Office of Public School Monitoring to share with the greater Foxborough community the tiered focus monitoring review. Give some background information about the process and share with the community what the upcoming events are. So we mentioned at last school committee meeting when we had a discussion about seniors last day that we were in the middle of the tiered focus monitoring review. The review was formerly known as the Comprehensive Program Review. It was formerly CPR. It's now TFM. The review is really compliance related. It is special education and civil rights, taking a look at whether or not we're in compliance with state and federal regulations. We have a representative whose name, email address, and number are featured in that press release that I've put in the memo for you in case you have any questions about the review process. He's been very helpful. Mr. Michael Azik and myself began this process last year, starting to compile evidence and submit it to the state, and we've been working very closely with our state representative, reviewing the evidence, getting his recommendations, and making changes along the way. The remaining pieces to the review is there's going to be a TFM orientation night for parents of students with disabilities. That will be sponsored and advertised through our CPAC. That is slated for January 22nd at 7 p.m., so that information should be going out to those families soon. At the end of January, beginning of February, there'll also be a survey distributed to those families. And in the second week of February, February 12th and 13th, we're going to have an on-site visit where our representative from the Office of Public School Monitoring will be coming on site, visiting our programs with a small team, reviewing some files and conducting some interviews with our staff. After our on-site, about 60 days later, we're going to get a final report. And at that point, Mr. Michael Azik and myself will be presenting that final report to the school committee. So sometime later in the spring, we'll be sharing with you all of the more granular details of what the findings are in the report. But just to preface, it's most of the recommendations about compliance, policies, procedures, updating language. They're not significant programmatic changes. They're just changes to our language in our existing documents. And there's no action needed. This is just for your information. This press release was shared with the Sun Chronicle and should be in the paper shortly.
thank you.
Well, I appreciate all the work that you and Mr. Michael Lazek and your teams put into this. It's no small matter to sit down and have all of this stuff reviewed. It's important, but I just thank you for doing your due diligence, which is, it's just a huge task. So congratulations on reaching the stage.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it. I'm not kidding.
That's one of your special
I
talents.
know you well enough to know you're not kidding.
So I'm looking forward to seeing what that final report looks like and seeing what those findings are. There'll be commendations and recommendations in the same way that the NEASC process is. This is like NEASC on a smaller scale.
Sure.
And I would think, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think the enjoyment of doing it is having someone from the outside. There's some validation in the process, as well as some introspection to be challenged, right?
Correct.
And so that's, I think that's the enjoyment that we all get. And I think of it from my perspective on the school committee, there's enjoyment there too, because we start to dig deep and we wind up validating much of the good that we do, but we're also willing to be open, because you have to as well, to changes. So I think that's where the enjoyment is, just about the depth of it and the opportunity to really kind of to get in there.
Absolutely correct. It's
Yeah.
knowing that we're doing the right things, and it's having that opportunity to talk with somebody from the state about little tweaks that we might be able to make to make our systems and our programs just function better for all kids. So that's the part that I really do enjoy out of it.
Well, thank you for the update. Really, very much appreciate it. Any other questions for anyone else? Great. So next, we are definitely running ahead on our agenda, everyone. Moving along, it's kind of cranked out. It looks like we're almost a half hour ahead as we speak. So next on the agenda is our continued discussion of the committee with Dr. Berdos and Mr. Yukna on the proposed budget. It was all, and again, in our packets. And Dr. Yukna? Oh, Dr. Yukna. Bill?
Put it there. That's great.
Go ahead.
So I only got one request, which I'll review, but the handout that I gave you that has the graphs on it, I thought might be helpful. Corey was able to basically put this together for us, and I think it really helps to define why a number of the changes that we're making in staffing and programs are existing over the last 2 years and really pushing into next year. If you look at the graphs in grand totals, you'll see that in our special programs that we've had within the 5 schools, in 2021 we had 75 students that were involved. In 2024, right now, we have 112, and we will have 128 next year in these programs. These are separate classes and inclusion type students that basically, without this additional support of these programs, some of them would actually have to go to an outplacement because we would not be able to service their needs on the level that they are required to have. So by putting these programs together over the years, and it started off with a couple and has kind of matured in each of our buildings. So on the elementary level, there's one program at least in each of the buildings. Actually, the borough has a kind of a double based on 2 different sets of kids' needs. The Ahern obviously has a number of programs with theirs, and then you have the PAVE programs and others at the high school level. And it helps to keep the students obviously in the community and in our buildings, and to give them the resources that they need to get to be as successful as they possibly can. So while it looks like, and it has been, a number of position changes over the last few years that we're requesting, if you look at the list that we supplied you in the budget package, you see a lot of them are specialists. A lot of them are ones that are supportive to these programs and to these students. And again, not that this is a dollar and cents thing, but if you look at the cost of having those staff members inside versus us having to do outside placements, This is an economical side as well to the budget. So I think it accomplishes a lot of things, but the primary thing is it accomplishes keeping the students within our district so that they can be with their peers and so that they can continue to hopefully grow in whatever way. Some are able to come out of the programs and be in other classrooms on a regular basis, which is great because, again, they're still in their community schools. So I thought this presentation for you, you can see just the growth in each of the levels, elementary, middle school, and high school as far as number of students. And you can also see that what Mr. Meister-Lasik did was also show you what we had for programs. So as an example, on the elementary level, we only had one program back in 2021. We've got, we're projecting to have, we only had 3 classrooms. And in 2025, we will have 5 classrooms on the elementary level. And I think that's, that's what's helping us to service these needs. But again, that's what all the support staff that we're hiring helps us do and maintain. So I think I think this is very analytical and just shows you it's not just that we want to have, additional staff. It really is that it's a support staff to programs we've created.
Which I might be repeating probably what you just said, but more numbers is very much a positive as well. It's creating more in the least restrictive, but it also takes away possible outplacements and other costs that could be greater. So more numbers is not a spend necessarily. It starts with a service, and there's things that go along with the service and the numbers. So that's important for people to take away, I think, in budget processes, especially with special education. So as you service more, you're doing a lot of great things, financially as well as services to students.
And I think it also shows that there is somewhat of a trend in the community of, students with additional needs or ones that are being identified sooner with additional needs, again, so that hopefully they're more successful as they go through the system. So.
Right. Well, that's the whole goal of this, right? Is to give the kids what they need, closest proximity to home, with the maximum amount of inclusion, least restrictive environment, as you said, as possible. And I really like what you said, Mr. Yukna, about the fact that if a kid's in our community and in our schools, those opportunities we have to mainstream them into other classes, it's easy. It's easier for us to follow the law. It's easiest to do what families want. It's easier for us to do what's best for the kid. The thing that I find the most impressive about this is the amount of infrastructure and pre-planning that it takes you all and your team to, you have to acculturate building leaders to say this is what we're going to do. You have to support it with staffing. You have to support it with PD and training, and then you have to support it on a daily basis with management and financial support. And it's really a team effort to make these programs work. And we're all familiar with if we're not best serving the needs of a kid, families have other options out, but this is what families want. They want to be close. They want to keep their kids in our community, and it just shows that it's working. So anyway, thank you. And thank you for the data. This is remarkably helpful.
Still on the operating budget, one request obviously was to get the scattergrams to kind of show where our population is for teachers and ed assistants, like we've done in the past. As you can see on the teacher side, 273 overall bodies represents 264.4 FTEs, because we do have some people that are 0.6s, 0.8s, that type of thing. But at this point, 65.5% are at top step, within our budget. Last year it was 63. So it's kind of grown a little. However, when you look at it, the ones that are at top step 15, as far as number of years in, isn't, like retirement time. So they basically, there's a lot that are up in those upper levels now, but they've got some time before they technically would be, where they would want to be for retirement. So we're going to run a little lean, as we've been talking about this for the last 3 years. We're going to start to run a little lean on the retirements, just because we've had so many over the last few years that, and the only reason I'm bringing that up is that part of our budget process is that we assume $125,000 savings for our teachers leaving versus teachers coming in. we still think and hope that that's, something that we'll be able to achieve, but at this point, we only have a couple retirements that we know of, and so it's challenging, but it's something that Dr. Burdos monitors very well as we go through the process, and we kind of just deal with it as we can as we move forward.
Right.
I don't know if there are any other questions on the operating budget at this point.
Oh, I wanted to just make a note in the version that we have now, the annotations outside the blanketed columns, those align with just notes, correct? On the far right?
Yeah, so it's a good point, because one of the things, as you remember in the first budget that I presented to you, two things happened. One, we were showing it without assuming state revenue
Right.
for the newcomers, so that you could see what the issue really was that was associated with that. The other thing is, we did make some small expense adjustments since the last budget, and it basically came down to a small increase in the guidance expense line because of Naviance increasing in its cost over a period of time, and we now use Arbiter Sports, which we use for the athletic side, to do some of our summer school and other cost-related things, so there's a small increase for that. And then within the athletics budget, we didn't make an adjustment for FY24, which we should have, because we're a little underwater right now, but we'll manage that through other accounts. In the contractor services, which is basically our ice time for hockey, which is getting more and more expensive each year.
Sure.
And then the officials, their cost obviously is going up because it's a salary-based cost, and so they've been kind of pushing for some changes. So between those two, there's about $22,000 in the athletic lines and expense lines that have gone up. There is one item that is going to have a cost impact to somebody. We're hoping to be able to solve it with a grant, so we're not putting it in our budget at this point. If we can't, hopefully maybe the Council on Aging or somebody else. Council on Aging got a grant that supported the interface cost, which was one of the programs for social services for families in need, and gave them resources to work with. The cost is about $31,000 a year. They had enough in the grant that they received that they can cover, obviously, this year, and about $13,000 of next year. So there's about an $18,000 delta.
Okay.
So we will be looking for grants to try to supplement it. It's not something that's directly affecting our internal school budgets and process, but we are the biggest user. Our school budgets, our families are the biggest user of this.
Yeah.
While other people in town obviously use it too. So obviously, if we can find a state grant or something that is under this level of need, and that this would qualify for, that's what we will apply for, to try to see if we can supplement that cost for next year. Anything on that, Amy, that I might have missed?
I don't think so. I think you've got it all covered.
Okay. So really, from the last budget, the total budget increase is $23,700. It's still a balanced budget. What we're assuming right now, or having to use as our balancing point, is that we're projecting in $403,240 from the state for the newcomers' cost. We kind of have two thoughts here. One, we're still waiting to see how the FY24 money is going to come in. We haven't seen anything yet. So we're hoping for that to come in. But we are trying to see if we can use as much of our resources to protect that money, so that hopefully we can carry some forward.
Yeah.
And that will mitigate the potential if the state doesn't do anything, or if they reduce what they're going to do for next year. One of the comments I had from one of the state reps was that, potentially, the kids were going to learn more as they go, so it's not going to be as hard, and which I tried to, dissuade them pretty quickly, because obviously, if I don't speak English today, speaking English next year is not going to be like I'm fluent. So there's a lot of requirements there, but I have no confidence in what the state will do at this point financially. So we're trying to buffer ourselves as best we can, and we've been given the indicator that if we do have any money left over in this money that they do give us this year, that we can carry it forward. The other side of it is they may not give us our final payment until next year of this year's money. So again, that's why we're trying to be conservative, that hopefully even if we don't get it, we're still covered for this year in our process. So the budget's balanced. We're, at the 3.5% that the town side talked about. And our one caveat is the money that we're obviously going to be in need of to handle the cost. And as you remember, in our newcomer cost analysis, that's part of this budget, we showed about $561,000 in cost. About $440,000 of it's in salaries, and $120,000 of it is in the transportation back to their regional schools that they were coming from. So if they came from Boston to go back to Boston, if they were coming from Norton to go back to Norton, if they were coming from Walpole to go to Walpole. And that number looks like it's growing. So that number may, surprisingly, may actually come close to about $170,000 to $180,000 by the time the year is over. It's a very expensive process right now because there's very few vendors. I encourage everyone to buy a minivan and get your license because you can make a fortune doing it right now. So anyways, that's where we sit. We're fairly comfortable with this year and hoping that we can have some leeway into next year that will give us some feeling of comfort on that too.
Any more questions from the committee?
Related to that, and this is a discussion from previous years, and it pales in comparison to the number of newcomers. But are there any developments you're aware of in town in terms of real estate and potential for families moving in and whatnot that you've heard on the horizon?
The developments that have been really out there for the last few years are the ones like up off of up near Route 1 there, the large development that's going in. It's gone slowly. It's been half a dozen houses a year.
Okay.
And other than that, most of the stuff that's being projected out there, like on Walnut Street, is over 55.
Okay.
So it's not children-based.
Okay.
There is still the one, I believe, out on the Mansfield Foxborough line out near the borough that is still out there, but I think it's not something that's going to be happening in the next. But they're
not breaking ground anytime soon.
Yeah, they're not breaking ground, so it's not likely it's going to be something that impacts us next year. But that is a family-based project with, I believe, 50 or 60 units. So
okay.
That could have some impact out in that area of town.
Thank you.
I'm seeing no one else. No good? Okay, so I think we're going to be prepared to, next meeting is our vote on this budget. So if you have any further questions or need further detail, obviously we got a couple weeks to reach out to you or Dr. Bertos with any other questions.
And again, just like the question on Scandigram, if you have it, just let us know. We'll get it to you and,
Appreciate it.
want to answer any questions on that.
Thanks for all the detail and all the hard work.
Always.
It's always done well, and I know I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It helps me understand a lot of data called down effectively for our understanding. So thank you.
And thanks to the budget subcommittee, since I wasn't here last time, so thank you guys for.
Yes, thank you.
Because it takes a lot of time too.
Thank you for that as well too. Next on discussion is the capital improvement plan drafts.
So what you have in front of you is the FY25. Obviously, we show you FY24 so you can see what was approved. We went in with a higher request than what was finally approved. And then as this is a 5-year capital plan rotating forward, you'll see the 4 years after FY25 as well with projected numbers. There's a couple shifts here that are need some real explanation. Obviously, we're, just as far as the four major items, computers and software and hardware upgrades, the school buses, the copiers, and we're in the last year of something that we've split over 4 years that was originally hoped to be 2 years, which was the music equipment replacement for the district. So this would be the last year of that. The computer upgrades, we are, and we've been talking about this internally with the administration side as well as, teachers to some degree at this point, but we're obviously going to have to get into a much broader conversation. Once we went to one-to-one, we added roughly 3,000 laptops to the district.
Sure.
We eliminated some desktop units, but obviously offices and some labs and stuff still exist with the desktop type units. We have two large server rooms that basically protect not only all of our data and the student data, but the town's data that we operate and maintain, servers, switches, UPS systems, all of that. We have hundreds of access points that gives us the wireless capability throughout all the schools to make it as broad as it can be. Probably 170 or so interactive projectors throughout classrooms. We have voice lift machine, which are the red cats that allow the elementary and even in the middle school for when teachers are talking, when their backs are turned or whatever, all students can truly hear what the conversations are. There's just a lot of equipment. When you add it all up on replacement costs, it's about $5.5 million worth of equipment. We've always used the concept that maybe, every 4 to 5 years we're trying to rotate. The reality is some items can make it 7, 8 years. Some items can only make it 4 years. Laptops are one of the items that basically are the 4-year concept. Partly, for two reasons. Partly because, especially in the middle school, they're much harder used, if you will. The elementary, they're very lightly used, and we actually keep them in the buildings after COVID. So their use potential will be longer than the 4 years. But still, we obviously have to maintain and watch as they age to see how they make it. We'll be doing battery replacements and stuff like that on the elementary sooner, but they could probably make it 6 or 7 years before you really have to get into replacement. Middle school and high school, it's every 4 years.
Yeah.
When you look at the overall cost, we've always had about a $200,000 annual ask for the town to be able to maintain this. I'm asking for $350,000. To be honest with you, it's not enough. But I think, we have to bring this up now and start to push what the real costs are to be in a one-on-one environment. We were extremely fortunate when we did the one-to-one with COVID when it hit. We got $1 million in state funding. Obviously, it was nice. It covered the cost. B, because the economy and equipment was where it was at the time, and we were one of the first groups to jump in timing-wise to order, we bought the equipment for between $275 and $300. That same equipment now is nearly double the cost. So, and many vendors really smartened up in cutting their lines to only their profitable lines. So where they might have offered 12 or 13 different styles of computers, they offer 6. And therefore, their price points have changed along with it. And the same thing has happened for pretty much all the technology. They called out the things that they found less profitable and was just stuck with the things that were more profitable. Printers, huge in that way. There are so many printers you can't even buy, filling ink, supplies for and stuff like that because they just don't even bother making it anymore. So anyways, our cost factor on the whole computer IT side of the world has significantly increased, and we're having to be very creative going forward to figure out ways that we can mitigate costs, but still provide the tools that the teachers and the students need in the environment and in the world that we're working through now. So again, it's a large ask over what we've asked in the past, but it's still not going to be the solution to the longer term problem. The school buses, Another interesting thing there, as you know, when COVID hit, financially, we kind of got collapsed for 1 year and didn't get buses, and then we took a couple years and were able to get a few extra buses. We used part of our budget, part of CIP, and we basically caught ourselves back up. So our buses currently are up to where we would normally be pre-COVID as far as replacement. But, we run basically 30 buses that we own. Some of them are our backup buses, our trip buses, that type of thing. They're the older buses, if you will. They get moved off. But we only keep buses for 10 years or 100,000 miles for a lot of reasons. In New England especially, these buses at 10 years, the amount of rust and undercarriage damage that occurs, you don't really want to go beyond that. Even if it has fewer miles, you've got other issues that you're dealing with. And obviously, once you get to 100,000 miles on these vehicles, there's a lot more things that are costly, money. But what happened with the buses, unlike, or just like, cars and stuff like that, when you went to a dealership and they wanted to get $8,000 more than the car was listed for, buses jumped. We were going from about $89,000, we're up to about $118,000 for a bus. One thing we have done over the last 3 years, maybe 4 years, is we've switched to gas versus diesel because our buses don't last long enough to take advantage of diesel engines. Diesel engines are made for 200, 250,000, 300,000 miles or more. But if your bus itself is going to rot out before you get anywhere near that, really doesn't make any sense. It's easier for the mechanics to maintain. It's actually less costly on the fuel. And we're not getting much worse gas mileage. After about 50% of our fleet is gas now, and our gas mileage really hasn't been affected much. So between the cost of the savings between diesel and gas and the not being a large increase, it's actually turned out to be an effective solution, I think, for us and for the DPW mechanics in being able to maintain the fleet. So that's why that number has kind of been jumping. But we need to do about 3 buses a year to keep the fleet basically in line. I had an interesting conversation today with the state. Both Rob O'Donnell and Jay Sullivan, who are our DESE supports as far as financially, and they actually were, when we started talking about a thing with buses, because something came up on one of our audits on our buses, and they said, "You don't know how lucky you are." And I said, "No, we do. We do measure it against what we've seen out there in other towns and stuff." They said, "We really wish more towns would go back to where they were because of the problems that are created with these larger companies. When they can't get drivers, it gets pushed across all of the communities." And we're a little bit, we don't pay the sales tax on fuel like those companies do, so that pushes your price up on gas and stuff. But we also are just overall, it's just much more cost effective. And since COVID, those contracts have gotten very, very expensive. So while we had to increase our rates to be competitive with the private sector as far as what they were paying, we basically still had control over our own buses and our own abilities and at a reduced cost. So I think that's saved the town money, and I think that's been an important thing. But obviously, you still have to have the equipment, and whether we paid for it this way or through a contract, we would still be paying for it. So the copiers, again, we produce a little over 6 million copies a year. It's actually, we've been able to cut it down, and we're looking to upgrade the way we use our copiers across the district, and we're going to be forced to obviously reduce how many printers that we have throughout the district, just because of the cost of the printers, the cost of the materials, and the inability to get some of that equipment, where our copiers were all purchased with the capability of being networked. And we're now going to just basically add the keypads to each one of those copiers so that somebody could send a job there and then just go up to it, push in their code, and get their jobs to come out. So we're working in that process to save money as well. So, but in the interim, copiers have gotten more expensive as well, but we're staying at the same $40,000. Last year they only gave us $20,000. of the 40 we requested. And we actually had to find somebody in our budget to replace a copier that we didn't have the funding for. And like I said, the music equipment, this is the last year of what was originally a 2-year program, became a 4-year, a 3-year, then a 4-year. Last year, we split the $50,000 request down to 25, and with the option of pushing 25 forward. It is basically 4 things, and of course, I let my computer go to sleep on me, so. 3 of them are expensive instruments that basically we haven't been able to purchase in the last couple rounds here. 1 second, I think I got it here somewhere.
Yeah, tubas, it'd be something that a normal student can't purchase. It's tubas, string basses.
Yeah, so
Themselves cost tens of
we have
thousands of dollars.
one of the items is a clarinet that's about $4,600. We have an alto sax that's about $5,600. 2 French horns that are both about $4,600. And what we also have a need for is to replace the Legacy Classic shells, which are the acoustical shells at the high school that go behind when the orchestra is actually playing. They're actually quite ancient and falling apart. They're going to cost about $22,000. We're going to use part of school funding, budget, about $16,000 to cover part of that cost, but that still leaves us with a cost of $25,000 to maintain these items here. So I think this would be the last and actually very large thing. As you know, we did pretty close to $200,000 worth of new equipment for the music program, but stuff that hadn't been bought in 20, 25 years.
Right.
So,
And it had been repaired to high heaven.
I've been repaired as much as we possibly could. So,
Thank you. Question, follow-up?
sure.
When you look at the inevitable recurring costs for computer upgrades in particular, what do you envision, what do you recommend to the town and to us are possible avenues for making up that shortfall long-term? We are where we are now, and this is fine. But we're going to have to up it in future years. Are there avenues that or areas that you would recommend we assist in pushing for with select board?
Well, I think financially that's a tough question because I don't think there's going to be additional revenue on the town side other than what we've normally seen as our steps.
Sure.
I do believe one of the comments one of the citizens made about actually a potential short-range drop at the stadium because of them putting in the natural turf and not being able to have certain events there, which would obviously are money events for the town, will create some pressure on the finances that way too. So
True.
I think this is going to be, it's going to be tricky. I think it's going to take a lot of cooperation between, student, staff, and the administration to find the right equipment that we move forward with, the way to save as much money as we possibly can. Like I said, even simple things like the printers may not sound like a big thing, but it is a very expensive proposition over time. And, the basic stuff we've moved and are in the process. Aaron's done a great job of moving a lot of our stuff into the cloud so that our server costs will go down over time because we won't have to maintain as many servers. Also makes it a lot more flexible when people want to connect. They're connecting that way, and obviously using the Amazon cloud and others, they've got very good protections. So I think it's really forcing tech and administration and teachers they're going to have to come to a new table, basically, of saying what is acceptable, what is the best we can do, and how do we keep moving forward. Because quite honestly, we are not in a different situation than any other community. Everybody got that nice boatload of money. Everybody went one-to-one and thought it was great. And even communities who had been one-to-one before, who were struggling to stay one-to-one, are still in that same situation. It's just one of those scenarios that, I think, maybe Nathan could speak to this, but having that technology available to you as a student, and many students might not be able to have that at home, and so obviously the schools, having that, and especially with a lot of our stuff going to technology, a lot of our, curriculum being, something that you pull down off the web, and books and everything else are,
Right.
Not hard copies anymore. So I just think that it's going to take a tremendous amount of cooperation and a lot of work from the tech department and the, administration and teaching groups to figure out how to do it. Because quite honestly, if we don't work together to solve this, the only other way is going to be salaries. And that's not where we want to go. We really want to be into something that we can support both ends of this. But I don't think you're going to be seeing large chunks of additional revenue coming from the state
Anywhere.
or the town to be able to do this. It's going to be a challenge.
And we've truly been having this conversation all year, too. So we've been talking about it as a leadership team and talking about the implications and projecting out, what might we be able to think about, what might we be able to innovate to be able to create a classroom environment that supports our students in getting them access to the platforms, the curriculum that we're all purchasing, that it's all online. There is not a print option for us for most of the curriculum products that we're using.
No.
And that's a reality that
Right.
every district all over the world is facing at this point, that everything is online.
The math and the reading programs alone that we've touted here as a district and have done so well for our kids, these have to be online because they're stepped and they meet a kid where they're at and they give them a problem or a reading section or a set of questions based upon their current level. We're beyond the textbook on that.
Correct. And that's all adaptive technology, and there's so much more that we can do to get our kids where they need to be and help them
Right.
meet and master the standards when we're able to leverage that adaptive technology and get them in those assessment platforms that make adjustments along the way based on their readiness.
Right. Thank you. I mean, you've been telling us about this
Well, Aaron, quite honestly.
before we went to one-on-one.
I mean, almost right after.
This is not a surprise.
One-to-one, Aaron Heyer basically started ringing the bell. One of the first things he did was put in a very good inventory system so that we could inventory every type of device we have. And every single device we have has, stickers on them now that, tell us the ID number and everything else so that we can literally go around with scanners and check in where things are. But, he's been pushing this issue for quite some time, that he knew it was coming, he knew it was going to be a problem. And I think we all immediately thought it was, because obviously we were getting $1 million, to do it. We don't get $1 million in any year to do stuff like this. So, but, again, because we have such a robust computer network and system with, dual backup, server rooms and stuff like that, which quite honestly is what protects us and the town in everything we do.
Right.
But it comes, with a cost, so.
And compared to the other town departments, they can't compare in terms of the numbers of machines that we are.
I'll tell you, the police department now, they went from being a user on networks of, with having 20, 30, 40 computers to now, having 60 in cars, having,
Right.
Their growth and demands on IT have probably quadrupled in the last 5 years. Fire department, not quite as bad because the way their operation works. But no, the demands on the IT department, from where it was 5 years ago to what they now support in this town, body cameras, I mean, everything we touch, they have some piece to, coordinate into.
Wow, you're right. Thank you for the context. Mr. Chair, I'm done.
Any questions from anyone else on the CIP information? Great. Thank you very much. Thanks for all the detail, all the information,
All the work.
all the work. Yeah, thanks for having it all there for us. It's wonderful. Next on the agenda is our school calendar draft. I think it's only for discussion at this meeting, for us to consider and ask questions, and what we've done in the past is kind of, thought about it for a meeting or so, or talked to constituents or whatever.
Sure. So I believe that we, the timeline last year, we presented this time last year and then voted you all voted at the next meeting. Just to go over a couple of things that you might notice with this year's calendar. Draft calendar, we've moved that professional development day that's normally in October to November. We do that every 4 years to align with the presidential election. You'll notice that winter break begins on December 23rd in this draft calendar and extends to the 31st. That's just when the holidays lie. And then the other change that we had made was to make sure that we're in alignment with that 12 days regulation that we spoke about at last school committee meeting. We've kept the QR code on the back to report your child's absence, and what you see on the back of the calendar draft is pretty consistent with what we had in terms of holidays and dates and information for families as we had last year. And also, just so you're aware, this has already been shared with our Educators Association, and they're in support of this version of the calendar, excuse me.
Your mind's still on data.
It is.
Always.
Yeah, right on. Right on.
Do you have any questions or feedback?
Looks great.
My question is parallel to this, and I can send it in an email. It's about work policies and things of that nature for our various observed holidays. Just that's it, and that's more of a curriculum building leadership end of things. So I'll save that for a different discussion. That's not purely on the structure of the calendar.
Mm-hmm. So we did. That is the exact same language that we had on the calendar draft last year, and that note and asterisk for those holidays that begin at sundown.
Yeah.
And that's the extent to which we've been talking through it on the calendar.
No, and I'm grateful for the note on there as well. So thank you.
I understand Nathan approved the 30th for the seniors to have their last day.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Nate approved? All right.
Senior class sanctioned.
He's just pleased we dodged it for this year, right?
Wait, I thought we could reopen that discussion.
Pipe down.
Oh, we voted on that?
Any further questions on the calendar as presented to us right now? Again, no one have to vote on it this meeting, but
No, I'm grateful. Thank you.
our first read through.
Okay.
Great, thank you, and I think it works for us to look at it, and then have some time to digest it. So thank you for doing that work. Next on the agenda, only a couple of things left, is the notification of community events.
Hello. So everything's going great at the Recreation Department. We're gearing up for spring, and we have our annual Ties and Tiaras dance coming up March 29th. So I believe enrollment for that, or the tickets for that, are on sale right now. Get them quick because it does sell out. It is an adorable event.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other notifications? I think the final agenda item is acceptance of a wonderful donation from Meditech, which is just so great to have it. You'll see in your packet a donation of $15,000 from Meditech, which they've done for many years now. I'm not sure I know how many years.
So generous.
At least 4.
Yeah.
So I'm told that the Meditech donation has been happening since Meditech opened up its Foxborough location, and we're very grateful for this donation. We've used it in the past to offset the cost for Project Lead the Way, STEM-related opportunities at elementary and middle, and with the potential expansion of Project Lead the Way that we talked about last year, we're really really excited about having these funds again. We will certainly put them to good use.
I know you do every year.
Anyone like the motion to accept the Meditech donation?
I make a motion to accept the Meditech's generous donation of $15,000 with much gratitude and appreciation.
Second.
Motion by Brent, seconded by Sarah. Any further discussion? All in favor of accepting the Meditech donation with gratitude, 5-0. Thank you. Sorry about my cough. Oh, okay,
You all right?
yeah, I'm fine. I have no other items. This
Could be a record.
could be a record.
So, before we do, just a question. Does it make sense, if we're going to continue with sharing what happens with the rec department, that we also open up community events from other community boards within the town? If we're going to continue to provide update on what is happening specifically to the rec department? Just for thought. I know we had talked about not making that an agenda item, but it persists as an agenda item, which is great. But do we open that up to other community boards that would like to share events at our meeting as well? Is that something that we want to entertain on our business agenda? Or is that something that we want to limit only to the rec department?
I think because I was voted by the school committee to be a liaison, I think that's why I make the updates, and that's why I sit on the rec board.
No,
and why
I
discuss
understand
it
why
here.
we do it.
Do we
I'm
have
just-
any other boards that we have
wait.
anyone appointed to?
But
I
But
guess that was a discussion.
Michelle often,
Right.
community updates are made by other.
Right, I understand, but we did
organizations.
agree at a meeting several meetings ago not to make this a standing agenda item, but it is one. So if we're going to do that, do we open it up, or do we leave it what it is? We don't have to vote tonight. We don't have to discuss it, but it's just a question that I'd like us to think about.
Do you want to put it on an agenda item for a specific discussion about it?
Sure.
Or we can discuss it now. I mean, but I think it'd probably be better put it on agenda item. So we'll put it on as another discussion item, as notification of community events, and we'll use that as a note clause.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
But thank you. I do appreciate the discussion, but I agree with Sarah that it's an appointment by the school committee, so I think there's a direct linkage.
I understand the logic. My question is, or my disconnect is, we did agree at a meeting several meetings ago not to have it be a standing agenda item, just like we don't have the various committees that Dr. Bodos is a part of as normal agenda items on our meeting. That was a specific decision that we made, but it is persistent on this agenda, and I'm not sure why it became persistent when we voted not to make it a part of the agenda. So
Open to
that's my
discussing it.
question.
I'm also open to any other community boards who have problems or have interest in that, or questions, to send us a note through community inbox or reach out to any of us individually. Because why not?
Great. We'll put it on as agenda item, future meeting.
Make a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair?
I second.
No,
No?
we didn't go around and ask.
Oh, sorry. Yes,
Oh, my gosh.
We're all excited.
We'll start over there.
See?
Nathan, anything
Now he's
else?
got something.
Nathan, anything? Mr. Yorkin?
So, Dr. Burrows wanted me to let you know that obviously we received a letter from the MSBA that the Taylor School did not get the nod this year to be part of the FY '25, I guess it would be, starting of statement of interest into. So we're going to have to refile. That will reopen up in a week or so. We'll refile for it. Kind of surprised. We were very close last year, so something must have happened with either some schools coming in much more desperate than us, or
Right.
a lack of revenue to be able to supply more. Second thing is that we had a resident, and I'm going to apologize up front because I'm probably going to say his name wrong, but Johnny Gattani from Willis Road, a retired Mason who basically came to our facilities department, Carl Fuller and Tony Masali, and asked if he could clean the Ahern brick and granite sign. He thought that, because there had been some, debris that had kind of grown onto it over time, and which is what happens with any of these things. And so they worked with them. They got the DPW to bring a truck over there with water. He came out there with a power washer, and he spent a day out there, and the sign looks phenomenal. It looks like brand new.
Thank you.
So we want to thank him for his services and basically his labor to put that together. So
Thank you.
That's so nice.
Very great.
Question
Thank
on the
you.
first, if I may, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Question on the first. Was there any specific feedback from the state, or is it still the case that our application is as solid as it can be, given the queue of other schools ahead of us?
It really just comes down to their evaluation of need, school over school.
Fine.
A few years ago, we made the decision to put the new boilers in at the Taylor because we didn't think we could wait for this day. That may be hurting us a little bit because obviously we're not as desperate as we were at the Borough, where we knew the boiler could go at any time.
Yeah.
So that may, allow another district to get in front of us if they've got stuff that's got even bigger priority needs. But we just couldn't take the chance at that point in time because it was, it was too critical for where we were to operate that building. And we did get a great program through Mass Save, so we saved a tremendous amount of money doing it. So we did what we had to do, but that may be one of the things that
Right.
just doesn't make us as hot
We'll get
as
it.
somebody else. We did that 3 years ago, but that's, it is what it is.
How many times do we have to put in for the borough?
3.
There you go.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
And this will be the third for the Taylor.
Right.
Dr. Burrows?
I have nothing.
Dr. Burrows, do you have anything?
I am good. I would just like to make another comment and thank Bill on the budget. I know we've said it before, but this budget with all of the different nuances with newcomers and everything else has been an extraordinary budget to put together, along with all of the grants that have sunsetted. So I just publicly, again, want to thank all the work that he's done on that. It has really been a tremendous amount of work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No.
Michelle? Rob? Nothing from me. Motion to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Brent, all in favor? 5-0-0, meeting adjourned.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.